Hello and welcome to another session of the Summer Summit. I'm here with Derek Lovell, who was the chair of the judges at the Sydney 2000 Olympic Games. How are you doing, Derek?
Well, still around, that's the main thing.
Absolutely. Let's kick things off and talk about those Olympic Games. There aren't that many judges in the world of archery who've had the honour of chairing a judge commission at an Olympics. It only comes around every 4 years. What do you remember of those Olympics and your role there?
Well, the role there was a bit of a shock, to put it bluntly, because in '99 in Riom, when we were sat down to dinner for the first night where I was judging a target event, one of the very few that I'd done, Don Lovel or Morton walked in and said, 8 of you will be going to the Olympics. But he said, so we thought, right, we've got to get rid of the other 5 then. That's the easy way. But then I was told afterwards, he says, you're not one of the 8. So I said, well, so I can apply again. He said, no, you're going to be the chair. And I must admit, I nearly fell through the chair, being known mainly as a field judge. But the Olympics itself, well, first, the test event, they were really ready. They had everything, those wonderful pits we got down into, which I gather they've had to dig up because of the nasty smells coming up from underneath, because it's rubbish land, isn't it? But anyway, the outcome was that those pits were excellent. They weren't always best for the viewing of the targets, which is why some of the calls were a bit iffy. And particularly if the sun was in a certain direction, you couldn't tell where the end of the arrow or the shadow finished. So that wasn't good. But otherwise, every other part of it was pretty good.
Why do you think you were picked then? You said it was a shock for you. What was it about you as a judge?
I'd only judged a few target shoots up to that time. So yes, it was a bit of a shock to think why I was picked, and I really never will know that. But I'd obviously pleased somebody on the judges' committee, and unfortunately, I was asked to do the Athens one as well, but I'd already booked a field event for that. That was the Vanier European, and because I turned it down, Jim wasn't very pleased. But there we go. You do these things.
So when you got to the Olympics, what is the role of a chair of judges at the Olympics?
Basically, you're keeping an eye on everything else. You do very little judging yourself, at least in those days. Don't forget we had a total of 31 people I was looking after. So that's not only just your judges, but the DOSs and the timing officials. So you've got to keep everybody happy. And one of the first issues I had after landing was that a promise had been made to one of the sponsors that was looking, gave us a uniform, that we would be wearing that uniform on the field. Well, obviously, that wasn't quite what the Sydney Olympic Committee wanted, because they'd issued us with some very nice uniforms and they expected those to be worn. So we came to an agreement in the end. Those in the pits had the descent, and those on the shooting line, judges on view wore the appropriate Sydney kit. So we solved that one fairly quickly. Otherwise, you get the chance to push the button that actually does the draw. IBM call you in and they say, right, I said, do you realise I'm a danger with computers? He said, no, I will show you the button. So did all that, and then had a great guy to work with, Jim Larvin. He was Tech Ops. I was Judge 1 on the radio. He was Tech Ops 1. And it was a real pleasure to work with, because anything you wanted, it was there. It was a great event. I had a great team. Unfortunately, a couple of them went down with some very nasty flu in a few days, obviously caught it on the plane or something, but we lost a few. But of course, with that many, we had enough to cope. So it was a brilliant event. Bit of a dust up with the council when they tried to take over our office. So I had a quick word with Tom and said that ain't happening. I mean,
did you enjoy your time in Sydney?
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I was lucky. I didn't fall ill with the cold till the day we were coming home. And I was worried that they may not let me on the plane, but no one seemed to notice it, so I got on the plane all right. But no, it was a brilliant place to be. My vice chair was Paul Ney, and I couldn't have picked a better guy. You know, he was really brilliant, which is why I wouldn't back away from him, because I was his vice chair for this field shoot that I was going to do in Vanier, so I couldn't let him down at the last minute. So.
And how does the kind of judges and the chair of judges fit in with the organisation of the games? Because obviously it's not a normal archery competition. It's got a lot of stuff around it.
Yeah, I suppose that really depends on how good the organisation is, but certainly there, the organisation was absolutely spot on. I knew exactly who to go to if I needed something, or call somebody on the radio, and of course we were on a site of our own, so we didn't have to bump into anybody else to do what we wanted to do. We could easily get around the area we wanted, and that makes it easy because you can see virtually every person you need to contact. Yeah, busy time, obviously, but I mean, there was a situation where, I won't give you names, but one of the judges in the pits was constantly adding a star to something. And of course, this was upsetting the scoring team, IBM. So I spotted this on the screen. So I get a message, can you I said, I'm there, I'm doing it now. What do you mean? I said, well, I'm having a quiet word with the gentleman. I've taken up a spare judge with me who's going to take over his place. And because what the guy just forgot to tell anybody, he wears glasses with, the split level glass. Because you're looking up to look at the arrow, you're looking down, and your eyes haven't adjusted, so you hit the wrong button. Simple as that. But yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was a fantastic place to be. Lost one judge at one point. He makes bows. I won't tell you who his name is. But he disappeared, went off with his team, and of course, I'm responsible for that. So the first thing I had to do is contact Tom and let him know we've got a man missing. But a cheeky blighter turns up the following day at the opening ceremony. Where was he? With his mates and his team. But you can't account for everything, can you?
So, fair to say it's not an easy job then?
It can be pressurising, but if you've got a team around you that you can trust, then it's not so bad. Yeah, I enjoyed it, put it that way.
Absolutely. And you said that you said no to the Athens 2004 Olympic Games because you had a field event, and field is obviously one of your great loves in the sport. Is that how you got into judging, through field archery? Or?
No, field came out because in UK we could only do, you could do either field or target, and you had to do two separate exams. So normally you didn't run the two together. So I started as a target judge, and that solely started because, I know it seems a long time ago now, but 1976, I was the tournament organiser for Kent Archery Association. And I was running a feater star with 72 targets, and everything went exceptionally well. So the judges that we brought in said, why don't you take up judging? I said, well, he said, you put on a tournament like this to this scale and this level, he said, you obviously know the rules. So I said, well, I expect so. So I did. That's when I started, 76. Took me till, because we had a very long dragged out period to get to national in those days. So it wasn't till 86, 87 I became national. But I got there. And then, of course, you have to wait 2 years before you can apply to be international. So in those days, it was a long time. Yeah.
And your path into judging, do you think, was typical of people at that time?
No, because to be honest with you, in UK, we still don't have enough judges to cope with all the things we do. And they did try just recently to do a system whereby, you could do field as well as target. They were making people do field because they needed more judges in field because they hadn't got enough. And because, needless to say, it didn't go down too well with some who've never been on a field course in their life. So they take one look at somewhere like Overton, and you've got this massive great hill in front of you, and of course they walk away. But no, field, as you say, has been my thing, and as you probably know, I was on the field committee for UK as well as FITA and World Archery, and we produced lots of check sheets because we noticed around the country there were many mistakes being made because the judges weren't doing their job. So we made it easy for them. My son, who's a whiz with computer programs, designed some programs for me, which, as you filled them in, if the figures were wrong, it told you so. And that's brilliant because it certainly cut the things to a minimum, the things that weren't quite right. Too many bunnies or whatever. Yeah, but no, it has been, my life, I suppose, field. So,
and when did you continue judging till? When did you last judge?
Well, last judge was just before the lockdown this year. That was an indoor FITA 18. So, no, that wasn't. The FITA 18 was November. This was Portsmouth, three sessions indoor. And then, of course, I'd got quite a few booked for this year, which have all gone out the window, as you probably know.
So you've seen the kind of the role of a judge change. You've seen it over a long period of time, and you've been involved at the highest level, and you're still involved at the local level. Have you seen the role change a lot over that time at both of those kind of levels of archery?
Certainly now. It's a good thing that we brought in when I was still on the judge committee in the UK, is that we brought in a reaccreditation system similar to the one World Archery uses, because we thought, why invent something new? We'll go with what works. And so every 4 years you go through that process. If you fail to pass that session, then you go down to the next grade and so on. Most people accept that, because it is important you keep up with the rules. As you know, there's many changes come along, so that seems to work. But yeah, I think the role, hopefully we've taken away the policeman attitude that we used to get. Someone strutting up and down the field barking orders. That doesn't happen so much now. And particularly in field, of course, probably you'll agree on this one, it's a much more friendly field out there, isn't it? Because you're talking to people all the time, as against in target, people just zoom up to the target, score, come back, sit in their tent. So it goes on. But yes, so field is a friendly field.
And in terms of the responsibilities at the competition in both target and field archery, do you think that the roles changed? Are people doing different things, or were you doing different things back 30 years ago than you do now?
I don't think we were doing them as well as they're being done now. We've changed many things over the year, and I think World Archery would agree they've changed a lot of things, and so has our committee's changed things, and all for the better. So hopefully it cuts the mistakes, cuts the errors, makes it easier for the judges to work. So I think things are improving all the time.
Do you see a next step for judging? Do you see a kind of development? Is there something that changes next or develops next?
I must admit, I've really I suppose since I know I'm still involved with World Archery through CNR, but I've tended to drop out of the idea of looking to where judging might be going, because to be honest with you, at the end of this reaccreditation period as a national judge, I wasn't going to do this last one, but a certain young lady who doesn't live too far away from me said, no, I'll tell you when you can drop out, and it's not yet. But I should be 79 then, and I think that's probably pushing your luck. Just you've got to be alert out there, and the way particularly our heads-to-heads work, it's all fast, it's quick, and I don't want to be seen as the person dragging up the field, keeping everything slowed down. So, yeah, I think I think it's all going in a good direction. Put it that way.
Okay, and you say you don't want to be the one slowing it down. I don't think you've ever slowed it down, Derek. But what is it about you, and what do you look for in other judges that make them good judges, having had all your experience over these years?
Well, obviously, we've assessed many over the years and obviously turned quite a few down from going up to the next grade or whatever. But I mean, you're looking for someone who's got a bit of common sense. If it needs to apply the rule, you think of what was its purpose of the rule. So can I allow a little bit there or not? And if you think, no, that's definitely breaking the rules, you're not getting away with it. Particularly a particular archer at one event who put this bit on the top of his sight. And it was obvious what he put it there for field. And I said, what's that there for? Oh, well, it's just, to align the string. I said, we shouldn't have a string alignment out there for a start. So I said, that's got to come off. So he went away and sawed it off. But yeah, no, I think it's difficult to say, but I think we've done a lot of things over the years to try and improve what the judges do out on the field. Now, where it goes from there, as I say, it's a bit of a laugh. I mean, my first appointment as an international was supposed to be the Mediterranean Games. And so I was sent a ticket, ready to go and all the rest of it. And then they turned around and said, no, you can't come because you weren't born in the Mediterranean, so you can't judge it. So therefore, my next appointment was the following year that was under Journo Schuss, people like Morton, Horst Helfrich. That was at the Virtu World Field Championships. Lots of flowing drink there, of course, as you can imagine, in the middle of the Champagne region. But we had a bit of fun there because there was, I suppose, being my first time at a major event. I was being a bit picky, and we were walking around this course, and I was with Morton at the time, and I said, what do you think of that tree, those twigs on the side? So he said, oh, yeah, they'll have to come off. I said, well, strange enough, being a good judge, I've come over with Neil. So we came in his car, and I brought my long locker with me. So I said, we'll get those off later, so we'll put it down in the book and do it later. Right, he said. All of a sudden, there's this motor starts up, and down comes the tree. Evidently, the work party had been watching us, pointing to the tree, thinking we wanted the tree down. So they took the tree down, not just the twigs. And then, because that evening, I get a call from Trish, who was there shooting. Why did you have that tree chopped down? I said, well, how do you know? He said, it's been on telly. I realised they were filming it as well. But yeah, so some good stuff there. Unfortunately, there was a few cheating incidents there, but you get those, I'm afraid, wherever you go. But I think the funniest thing was on the first day. Paul Ney, who I mentioned earlier, was on the unit just ahead of me. So we were each looking after 8 targets. So sometimes we met up at where we joined. Then at one point, this plane turns up and starts flying up and down the field, and we suddenly realised what he was doing, spraying the crop. So, lucky enough, Paul had control over 7 languages, and the French had laid phone systems all the way around the field for scores to go in and everything else, landline phones. And so he grabbed one of these, called up the organisers, get that stupid idiot in the play away from here. So we know we'll never get fungus now because both Paul and I were sprayed with this damn stuff.
You talk about some happy memories in competitions, and I know the community between judges is still very strong. Is that something that's been there for a long time, the friendships and the community among the international judge community? Oh, yes, very, very much so. I suppose after that first year of judging, my group of friends abroad, doubled, trebled, absolutely fantastic. But not just the judges, the organisers, you all become part of the team that's putting it on. So, yeah, it's a fantastic feeling to be part of that, family.
it is a family, let's be honest. So, yeah, always looked forward to going to meet the next crew, some of which you've worked with before, some are new to you, which is good. So you end up training them in the right way. So, yeah, I think one of the busiest times I got was Riom. That was a target event in '99. And there were judges conference prior to the event. So we decided, we'd been asked to do a field judging talk. So that was Per, he was the chair. Then we had Skip Phillips from the States and myself. And we were all going to do an hour each because we've got 3 hours in the morning to do it. So we all, and this is long before, everything we've got these days available. So this was on the old sheets where you had to draw things on them and then show them on an overhead projector. So we all prepared all of our stuff. Then literally a week before, Skip gets taken in for another operation. So Per and I share out what he was going to say. So that's going to be 2 of us doing an hour and a half each. Well, then unfortunately Per's mother died. So I did the whole 3 hours. And then while we were having lunch, Don Lovo said, that went down very well. Can you do another hour after lunch? Well, why not? Because that encouraged everybody to go and judge field. And that's when it was difficult to get a job at a field shoot. So, yeah.
Wow. So field was the thing you were passionate about by this point, and you said you were very surprised going to the Olympics. Do you think field and target judges should intermingle more? Should both disciplines be, important for people?
I think so. You look at who should have been judging this year, and she's probably judged more at the Olympics this year. Should have been Hannah, and she does both. She does field, target, obviously TD in her position as chair, and all that. Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing to be able to do both, and I think this is. In the grapevine, I hear, they're making sure that all the judges are fit enough to do it now, which that will put some of them off, no doubt.
I talk about fitter and capability and stuff like that. There's been a long drive to get younger people involved in judging as well. Do you think that's a needed thing? Do you think that's something that has to happen?
Yeah. No, I mean, World Archery has worked quite hard on that, haven't they, with their, younger judges, and we do struggle to get many young judges. We've got a few, but particularly when someone is shooting well and they realise how much time you then have to give up to becoming a judge and doing it, means you can't shoot as much and probably won't get in the team again. So perhaps very difficult for someone who's at a high level of shooting, but for the average athlete, then it shouldn't be a problem. I can't see why we can't sort of find a way of attracting more youngsters in. Because, quite often when we were checking the field course, the combined age of the 3 judges checking it was 180. That's pushing it a bit, isn't it?
And you say that you need to get more young people in, but you are a volunteer when you're judging. What do you get out of doing it, and doing it at such a high level as well? Because it takes a lot of time if you're going to do it at a local level. But traveling abroad, doing something like the Olympics, that's 2 weeks of your time. It's a voluntary position. So what do you get back from doing it?
The satisfaction of having done a good job and it's gone well. There's nothing better than when, I think at the Olympics in Sydney, Paul Paulson. He was the chairman of the committee, waiting for all these problems to be thrown at him. And he came over to me and he said, there's no point in me coming. We haven't had any people with problems. I said, well, that's what it's about. And it was good to hear that, they were happy with it. So, yeah, it's satisfaction that you've gone out and done a good job. And if you do make a mistake, then you've got to own up to it. It's no use trying to hide it, because people will know. They're not stupid. But yeah, it's very much a case of the satisfaction of having done a good job and training your team to do the same. That you all work well together.
We say when you're looking for judges, you're looking for someone with common sense who can apply rules. Is there something that you think judges learn from being a judge that can be applied outside in life?
Oh, yeah, I think so. How could you assess that? Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things I've done in judging which I've found help my work. Which was a very exacting business. Looking at patient biopsies and things, and you find that those things transfer a bit over to the job you do day-wise, and hopefully the way you run your life in a bit, because I think going out and being a judge gives you a good background in life, and again, providing you do it well. Yeah.
And what about the relationship with athletes and with archers? Do you think that's a big strength in being a judge, and do you think that has changed over time as well?
I've had many arguments with people and their equipment, obviously. No, but generally speaking, if you can give them good reason that something isn't quite right, they will listen. And it depends, obviously, how you approach that. And I think that is very important. Just don't jump down their throat. They're there to make a name for themselves, hopefully. I mean, we had one guy in Sweden, Morton and I picked up on inspection, and on his tab, Beerbow tab, he'd created a scale, which was all right as far as the lines were concerned, but unfortunately he'd written numbers in there as well. And the only thing he could find to scrape those numbers off of this metal plate was a nail file. So he sat there most of the afternoon doing it before he brought it back for inspection. But he did it, no argument. But yeah, I think it's how you approach people that makes all the difference. And also try and do it with a smile if you can. I think my last ever tournament for World Archery was Kaohsiung, the World Games, and there were two young girls that were looking after the judges, and I think something she came over and said at the end was absolutely spot on. She said, "You're always smiling, even when things go wrong." I said, "Yeah." I said, "That's me." So I said, as long as I look good, it doesn't matter then, does it? No, but yes, that was a fair journey over there, I must admit. But we saw rain that you've never seen anywhere else.
Typhoons in Taipei, they could be quite impressive.
Yeah. Oh yes, right.
And this is a huge multi-sport event like the Olympics as well. And both of these things, you've also got the opportunity to watch some really cool moments in the sport's history now. Seeing Simon Fairweather win in Australia. I mean.
Yeah.
Is it easy to enjoy those when you're there in a not professional capacity but a judging capacity?
Yes, you have to temper it a bit. Put it that way. You mustn't be seen to be favouring anybody, obviously, because you're there. You're impartial. But obviously, you have your favourites. You'd love to see get through. I mean, I was always amazed. I was sitting there in the stands with Sergio for a short while. And the information he has in his head about every single archer is absolutely unbelievable. She won us gold in so and so and a silver then, and I think, crikey. But yeah, no, but you can see the passion he has for the sport, I think, which is very true. It's one of those things, I suppose. You either take it all in or give up. So, yeah.
Looking back on your judging career, do you have a moment that you consider your favourite? Do you have any times that you look back on very fondly?
Trying to think on that one. There's been many occasions I've enjoyed being out there doing things. I suppose it'd be difficult to pick out one particular one. There were places I loved to be. There was one place where we used to hold a shoot up in Muncaster, on Muncaster Castle. And there was a place there where you could stand and watch 7 or 8 targets, but at the same time look at the fantastic view. And that was, if you like, my place I would love to go and just stand and do nothing, because you couldn't do that because you were judging. But yeah, there's lots of people you meet and lots of places you go to that are really enjoyable, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? I think if you don't enjoy it, you probably wouldn't carry on doing it. Sometimes, yes, as you said earlier, you do a lot of travel, sometimes on your own, and that's, it's all right on these long trips if you've got someone to talk to, because there are some people who never stop rabbiting. I won't go on that one with names, but yeah. And of course, on those long flights, you've always got things you can do anyway. I mean, going out to the Olympics in Sydney, we took a wodge of paper like 4 inches thick, because we didn't have all these computer things to use on the field. So you had this great wodge of paper in files. And, almost felt like leaving it all there when I came back, because the stuff they gave you, like a bathrobe, big woolly bathrobe, well, talk about overloaded when I came back. It was unbelievable. But yeah, it's been a great life for me, and I was lucky in the job I was in. Because over the years I built up 49 days leave a year, which was absolutely brilliant for me to do what I wanted to do.
It allowed you to do that travelling and that judging.
Yeah. I mean, in the last year there, I did 2, because I did 3D champs in Italy, followed by Kaohsiung. So that was a nice way I could use up some of that holiday.
Absolutely. And when you're still working with younger judges, up and coming judges at the national level, and when you're talking to the judges coming into it, is there advice that you give them? Is there a lesson from Derek that you pass on?
Really, I suppose it's, as I said, you have to do the job well, and if you don't feel you can do it well, then you shouldn't even start it. You've got to be able to commit yourself to being a judge. Otherwise, things will keep pushing you out again. We lost we had a good judge, young judge coming on in the county, and unfortunately, he then became an excellent archer, capable of shooting 3 different bow styles. And we don't see him as a judge. Hopefully, he might come back later on in life, but at the moment, we've lost one of our younger proteges, as it were. Yeah, I suppose it's just, if you do the job, do it well, and listen to the people who've been there before, because they can make your life that little bit easier. Yeah. So.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Derek, for having this conversation with us. Thank you very much, and congratulations for everything you've done in archery as a judge, and all the people you've inspired, no doubt, like myself, along the way.